Hello and welcome to Yin and Restorative Yoga. Please make sure you have a bunch of pillows, blankets, yoga blocks, whatever that you might use as a prop nearby. And we're going to begin in a supported balasana or child's pose. So setting up a pillow so that it is, and you may want more than one pillow, but start with one so that it's tracing the midline of your mat towards the front half of your mat. I like to place a folded blanket towards the middle of it because we're going to straddle the rear end of the pillow, and we'll place our head off the pillow at the top end to rest on a block or 2 blocks, whatever you might have, so that you can comfortably just lengthen your neck. So go ahead and straddle the rear edge of that pillow, bringing the feet together. And so you may or may not want to have a folded blanket for your stomach. And then adjust the block that you'll rest your forehead on so that you can naturally rest the shoulders down your back and honor space in your throat. And then placing your hands wherever it feels comfortable for you. I like to turn the palms face up with the elbows and forearms on the floor in front. Just take a moment here to scan the way you've situated your body once you've found a position, and just feel into your left and right hips, left and right shoulders. Just notice how in the variation of this posture, how you've set up the props, the way that you're supporting a sense of balance and restfulness in your body. And then when you're ready to be still for a bit here, a few minutes, start to tune into how you're naturally breathing. And with that, how you're feeling internally, your mind and emotions, energy. Here's a quote that I have mentioned before from the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. I found a blog article in Hacking the Self talking a little bit more about the meaning of this, according to this person's interpretation. And they said that it's hints at an important way of relating to yoga as a journey to wholeness. The Sanskrit word yoga comes from the root yuj, Y-U-J, meaning to yoke or to join. And that's why yoga is often thought of as union between the breath and movement, the mind and the body, the Atman, or the self with a capital S that relates to consciousness, and the divine. We can choose to interpret these ideas in numerous ways to suit our own beliefs, theistic or atheistic, but either way, a theme of connection clearly underpins the practice of yoga. And this is the hero's journey. If you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, and he talks about the main character in many of those superhero stories, right? Like Star Wars. The hero goes into a journey into the unknown, and through that process becomes transformed through challenges in which he or she confronts parts of themselves that may have been hidden in the unconscious, and they may have even suppressed, right? We call those in Jung psychology the shadow self. Qualities that we are not so proud of that we may tuck under the carpet. And so in confronting the shadow self, that hero comes to a transformation, a personal insight and growth, and comes out of that unknown into a greater knowing of themselves. So the circle of the hero's journey into the underworld, the shadow of unconscious that is necessary for us as yoga practitioners to triumph over evil, so-called, so to say, or rather simply to prevail over our own limitations or our own vices or our own shadow sides. It's the movement from, as you might hear in many yoga chants, like asatoma, darkness to light, from fragmentation, breaking off parts of ourselves that we don't want to see, to wholeness, integration, and healing. So this is why we cultivate attention in our practice, to begin to recognize the parts of ourselves at which we've avoided perhaps for a long time. And this is the Jungian sense in which, as the author of the blog says, they've come to understand yoga, to undertake the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. And perhaps along the way, we learn to forge those deeper connections between the various parts of our fragmented self, our body and our mind, between each other. This is the promise of yoga, to make us whole. And so to end, here's a quote from the poet T.S. Eliot. "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know it for the first time." So we begin in a rather representative or symbolic posture, child's pose. Right, that sort of beginner's mind that we cultivated in our mindfulness practice. The beginner's mind of a child or a newborn. What's there to see here for the first time is you might have practiced this pose many times before if you're not new to yoga. We'll stay here for just another 5 breaths, beginning to breathe more deeply if you haven't started so. And maybe even exhaling a sound or few out to your mouth. Let each inhale take up a little more space in your physical body, exploring parts that may be sort of tucked under the carpet that we may not pay so much attention to. And let's finish one more deep breath here in child's pose. And very slowly walking your hands to the floor beside your knees. Drop your chin towards your chest and begin to roll your spine slowly upright into a comfortable seat. You might even like to sit on a pillow. And we just pause here, perhaps placing a hand at the center of your chest, a hand at your lower belly. Feeling rooted down to your pelvis, uplifted in your spine and heart. And maybe setting an intention. As we practice in community, let's send our intentions out, activating them through sound. 3 chants of Om. Take a deep breath. And now I invite you to visualize your torso from your pelvic floor all around the sides, the back and front of your torso, up to your neck, up to the tops of your shoulders, as though it were a jar. And into the jar, we're going to pour the breath into 3 parts. So the first part is the lowest portion, which includes your lower belly, your lower back. And you might even just use your hands to feel that area as you visualize that section, the lowest part of your torso, down into the pelvic floor. And then the second part is the mid-torso. So if you feel the sides of your rib cage and into the back area of that, the front area of that. So that's the second portion. And then up to your chest, your armpits, your shoulders, your throat, your neck and shoulders, there's a third portion, the uppermost. So let's feel into the lowest portion and just take a deep breath, isolating it into there as much as you can. And then holding the breath in, keep sitting up tall and relaxed. Then exhale through the nose or the mouth, up to you. And then feel empty. And then slide your hands to the middle part of your torso. And then focus on just inhaling there fully. When you arrive at the top, hold for a few seconds and just savor that feeling of fullness there. And then when you're ready, slowly let it go and just feel the shift physically, maybe even energetically. Hold at the bottom for a few seconds. And then as you're ready, feel into the upper part of your torso, wherever you want to place your hands to help visualize, and breathe into there, taking your time, holding the breath in at your own pace. Even fill up your armpits. And when you're ready, slowly letting it go and just feel the shift or the difference of the fullness and the emptiness. Hold at the bottom for a few seconds. And then let it all go when you're done. So you may want to place one hand at your chest, one hand at your lower belly to help delineate those three parts, whatever works for you. Now we're going to take 3-part breathing, which is dirga pranayama. The inhale is divided into 3 parts, the lower, the mid, and the upper torso. We'll hold at the top of the breath, and then we'll slowly empty the breath completely and hold at the bottom. So let's take that for a few cycles. Empty this breath. Hold it out, sitting tall. Into the lowest portion, inhale, 1/3. Pause. Into the mid portion, inhale, 1/3. Pause into the uppermost portion and inhale the last third. Hold your breath in, keep relaxing your shoulders. And when you're ready to, empty the breath completely, slowly. Just feel what shifts. Linger at the bottom of the breath, still sitting tall. And then let's try another one together. Lowest portion, inhale 1/3. Mid portion, inhale. Upper portion, inhale. Hold it in for a few seconds. Then slowly let it go. Hold it out for a few seconds. And then I invite you to try at least 2 more cycles on your own. So you can really own your practice of this breathing technique and be able to do it whenever you need some 3-part breathing to help calm your nervous system and to make full use of your breaths. And to unite body and mind. And just finish those 2 cycles at your own pace. And when you have finished, I invite you to ease into deep breaths through your nose. And if you're feeling a bit hot today, you could breathe out to your mouth, that's fine too. Just focus more on breathing fully into all three parts. And then really taking your time to exhale completely and feel the difference between both ends, the fullness and the emptiness. So the practice of pranayama, breathwork yoga, really invites us to be present in what is here now, knowing the breath is what is present here. It brings us into union with our bodies, our minds, and our bodies. So continue to anchor your mind to your conscious breathing. And then we'll just start with a simple movement. If you are crossing your legs, you may at this time want to switch the cross of the leg on top, just to even out your hips. And then we'll come into Sufi rolls. So as you press your palms down in your lap, rounding your pelvis, lift your spine, the shoulders relax, and as you inhale, sway your torso to the right, and then come all the way forward, sway your torso to the left as you breathe out, and then lean all the way back. And so take that a few times at your own pace of breath, really slowly synchronizing breath and body movement. You might imagine that floating around your torso is a hula hoop, and you're trying to touch that hula hoop with each edge of your rib cage, the back, the side ribs on the sides, front ribs in the front. And then when you're ready, switch directions, circling your spine. So this is a nice simple way to just lubricate the joints of the spine. If you have to sit at a computer, for example, for work for long periods of time, you can even do this while you're sitting. Maybe not on a Zoom call, I don't know. But just finding that lubrication, especially even down into the pelvis, the sacrum, the lower back. Maybe switch directions again. And then feel free if your shoulders want to move in isolation as you do this. Sort of like you're doing that 80s move, the Cabbage Patch. And then going in the opposite direction one more time. You might be starting to feel some warmth in your torso here. You still feel the three parts of your breath without having to pause. And then let's relax here. So now just elongating the spine, softening the shoulders down. Let's bring the head into a similar movement. So dropping your chin down to your chest. Inhale, right ear to right shoulder. Exhale the chin towards the sky. And left ear to left shoulder. Or go slower if you like. Take it as gently as needed. And if you find a part of your neck that feels quite creaky, you might pause there and just take a few breaths. Ease your way through. Then as you're ready, switch directions. And finish this breath. Now we're going to take the circling into the shoulders. Very simple movements, but very effective. Right? You might be feeling some warmth in your neck and jaw right now. So keep your jaw relaxed. Inhale, rotate your shoulders behind you, then up. Exhale them forward, then down. Several more. So generally the inhales are to lift and the exhales are to release down. Really feel how the range of motion in your shoulder joints might change after doing this for a while. If you're ready to, let's switch directions by inhaling the shoulders forward, then up. And exhaling them back and down. Notice the movement of your scapula, your shoulder blades on your back ribs as you do this. A common area to accumulate knots of tension are those inner edges of the shoulder blades. And if you have any there, you might even close your eyes and picture breathing into that particular area of your upper back, right between your shoulder blades, as you're doing this for a few more breaths. And then from there, we're just gonna do a little arm shake, like you just washed your hands and you're flicking the water off. Shaking is really simple, yet also effective tool to just unstuck any stagnancy. Notice whatever else might want to shake, just for another half a minute here. You might even extend legs and begin to shake out your feet and shake out the thighs. Shake out the jaw or the tongue. And while this is not a vinyasa filled class, I think what can be really helpful after all this shaking and circling is to land in downward facing dog. And if you'd like a supported way of practicing downward dog, you can use your pillow or a block, maybe even 2 block stack. I'm going to use one on the medium height, just down the midline of the mat, and then framing that block with your hands kind of forward of the block. You can rest your hairline, part of your forehead, onto that block. Not to put a lot of weight on it, but actually it's to encourage the rebound effect of drawing your shoulders and hips further up, further back. You might give this a try and feel that, not for me right now, I'd rather just let my head hang free. Take your version of downward dog for maybe 5 or so breaths, and then we'll come back down to hands and knees when you feel ready. Now, to help warm up the backs of your legs, you could do a little side twist dance as you pedal your feet in place. And what that looks like is when you bend one knee, you swivel your hips towards that side of your mat of the bent knee, and then you drop the opposite heel, and then switch sides. Notice the space across your shoulders here. If you're still in downward dog, can you wrap the triceps towards the floor and really open up across your shoulders, free up space in your neck. And when you're ready to, coming down to hands and knees, let's set up the hands for a wrist stretch while we practice cat-cows. So spinning your hands to turn out, whether your fingertips face the right edges or the rear edge of your mat, whatever degree allows you to gently stretch your inner wrists and forearms. As your wrists are under your shoulders, step your knees a couple inches or more behind your hips so your torso has a little more space to move around. Listen to your breath. Take the entire next inhalation to draw your heart through your upper arms, roll your shoulders back, and look up. Cow pose. Use the entire exhale to contract your belly, tucking the tailbone underneath your body as you drop your head. Cat pose. And then several more, nice and slow, undulating your spine. Extension, flexion, a movement that helps to tone your vagus nerve, promoting the relaxation response of your parasympathetic nervous system. finish one more cycle of breath in Virasana, in cat-cow. And then we'll sit back onto the shins for a moment or stand on your knees so that we can offer the outer wrist a stretch by making fists out of your hands. And then giving yourself a fist bump like this as you lean the backs of your fists onto the ground. The elbows are flaring apart off the ground. Slowly shift your weight forward to the amount in which you want that outer wrist stretch. Just finding the sensation that works for you here. Taking deep breaths through all three parts of your torso. Notice if there's any reactivity in your neck, shoulders, or face. I'd like to take us into some half Sun Salutations after this. So leaning back onto your knees or your shins, just gently circle your hands at your wrists, just to integrate those two opposite wrist stretches. You could even flex and extend at your wrist, like you're waving to someone to come here. And then let's rise up. You may want to have your two blocks about a foot in front of your feet as we take some half Sun Salutations. Separate your feet hips distance apart, wider if you prefer. Parallel your feet. Spread your toes on the ground. With arms by your sides, feel the full length of your spine, dropping the shoulders as your chest opens. Come back to the sound of your breath. And let's take 5 slow rounds of meditative, slow half Sun Salutations. Ardha Surya Namaskar. And perhaps to inspire the feeling tone of it, here's that quote again by the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. Here we go. Inhale, sweep your arms overhead, palms touch. Maybe close your eyes in this. Exhale, bow forward. You can bend your knees any amount. Press your shins, the blocks or the floor. Inhale, rise halfway. Exhale, fold again. Press to your feet. Inhale, sweep your arms to rise all the way up. Tracing your midline with your palms in prayer. Exhale, slowly into mountain pose. 4 more cycles. Inhale. Arms sweeping up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, press with your hands to lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. Press to your feet. Inhale, rise all the way. Exhale, palms tracing your midline. Mountain pose. So I'll be quiet as you finish your last 3 cycles. Tune into the sound of your own breath. And just honoring your own pacing, no rush. When you finish, allow a few breaths, just settle into mountain pose, feeling the ground supporting your body from below, feeling the rebounding energy to stand tall and allow space in your body. noticing any subtle or not so subtle effects of those Ardha Surya Namaskars, half Sun Salutations. So we're going to move just a little bit more. Please grab your strap, a belt, a scarf, a really long sock. And we're going to bring a little more openness into the shoulders. You can do this sitting down, standing on your knees, or standing up. You decide. Just make sure that your spine feels long in the front and in the back. That this doesn't happen. I'm exaggerating. But that the front ribs don't start to protrude and the tailbone doesn't start to stick out behind. So keep lengthening up and down. Hold a strap between your hands, wider than shoulders distance. You might go generously wide apart to start, and then as you're warming up the shoulders, you can crawl the hands closer together. You want a pretty taut grip on the strap, not hanging loose like this. And then keeping your elbows straight, the shoulders, a natural space down away from your ears, even when you're raising your arms. So here we go. We're going to take a few breaths of just lifting the arms as you inhale. Exhale the arms all the way back and down. So if you're finding that that is very challenging, step your hands as wide apart as needed. And that's your distance for the whole movement. Inhale up, exhale forward and down. And then use your own breath pace. We'll do this for about another, minute and a half. And notice when you lift your arms, does it cause the front ribs to pop forward like mine tend to do? And if so, be really mindful of sealing in your front ribs and even slightly drawing them down towards your pubic bone so that it doesn't infringe on your lower back. Now, if you're feeling like this has become very easy for your shoulders, you can step your hands even closer together. We've got about 30 more seconds. Notice your jaw here, keeping it relaxed, your tongue soft. Last 2 breaths. And when you finish the exhale, just let the strap go. You may want to grab your blocks here, standing your feet in between them. Step your left knee behind you. And we'll start to move into single pigeon pose from here. So you may want to have a pillow, blanket, or folded, a blanket or block, if you have a third one, that your right glute can land on. So we're using the blocks here to just for balance as you turn out your right thigh at the hip. Begin to slide your right heel towards your left hip, landing the right shin across your mat on the ground. Take a moment to tuck your left toes as we're setting up and scissor your right outer hip back. Bring your left outer hip forward so as much as you can your 2 frontal hip bones are squaring towards the front of your mat. And then you can relax the top of your left foot. Now, if your right shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat, make sure that you're flexing your right foot the entire time on this side of the pose, so you're stabilizing the knee. And then here's some restorative variations for this. You could place a pillow, make a little incline, 2 blocks underneath the part of the pillow that's away from your pelvis, so that pillow can serve as something you can give a bear hug to, and you can lie forward. Set up your body so that it feels supported in safe alignment, to the degree that you can feel something's happening, something's opening up, but it's not painful, right? If it is painful, maybe you elevate your 2 hips on something, another pillow, or unfold a blanket. Or you lie on your back and you can thread the needle. I'll demonstrate thread the needle for those of you that might be new to it. You're bending the knees, crossing the right ankle over the left thigh, flexing the right foot, figure 4 shape. And then right here could be plenty. You could use your right palm to press away your right thigh to help open it, keeping the shoulders and head on the ground. Or you could take hold of your left thigh that's underneath using 2 hands and slowly bring it closer to your chest. Splaying open your right thigh. And so whatever variation you've chosen, let yourself be still there and trust. Something's happening and just allowing space for it. We're here for another 1.5 minutes. And just a friendly reminder, how is your breath here? Moments of perhaps noticing your attention wandering off to some other time and place than now. Notice what that feels like when you realize it's happening. And then notice what it feels like to bring your attention back. Just a couple last breaths here. Take your time. If you are in the upright version, bowing forward, and slowly make your way onto hands and knees. If you're on your back, stay on your back, and you can uncross your legs and begin to circle your thighs at your hips with knees bent. So if you've made it to hands and knees, you may like to just circle your right leg at the hip a few times just to help further warm up that hip, encourage blood flow into it. Now, if you're on your back, simply switch sides and take it to supine single pigeon again. Otherwise, from hands and knees, we'll enter differently here. Slide your left shin across your mat, so you're turning out your left thigh from the hip socket. Make sure that that's where you're originating this hip opener, not at your knee, not at your ankle. And then as you place your hands alongside your hips on blocks or on the floor, tuck your right toes in the setup so that you can help to center your left hip back and bring your right outer hip forward. Then notice, this can be very telling here if your left glute is high away from the floor, to put something underneath it and support that alignment of squaring your. Relax your right toes. If your left shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat, flex your left foot in the side. And then any props you may have used on the first side, like the incline pillow, the 2 blocks stacked at the rear end of it, so you can bear hug it, maybe turning your head to the opposite side. So carefully setting your body up here so that it can comfortably be still for another 1.5 minutes. And then back to watching your breath. And let's listen to 2 more breaths here. When you finish, take your time moving back into hands and knees or lying on your back still, happy baby pose. From hands and knees, those of you that are in that version, might give your left leg a little shake or circling at the hip. All right, so we are going to set up for a version of Supta Virasana with a heart opener. You'll want to grab 2 blocks or 2 blocks and a pillow, so you can make sort of a reclining chair like this. So figure out the architecture of that so you can make a reclining chair. We want to have the effect of lying back into it, and it helps to open up the chest. I prefer having the high block under my head and the medium block under the bottom tips of the shoulder blades. So the setup. Now the legs are going to be in hero's pose, so that could be either sitting on your calves with your toes pointed back. It could be rolling the calves aside with your hands so that you can sit on the floor between your ankles, toes pointed back. So we'll lean back from here. If you've got knee sensitivities, this is not a position that you can stay in for a while. Instead, you could choose Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, knees bent apart. What's really nice about this one, if you have a strap, is to make a really large loop on that strap, almost like a hula hoop that you can place around your lowest part of your lower back, and then loop it around the outer edges of your feet. Then tighten the loop enough whereas the strap is right at the highest part of your buttocks, and the lowest part of your lower back. As you lean back, you can feel really like you're wrapping a newborn in a blanket, so it feels very nurturing. So whether you're in Supta Virasana or in Supta Konasana, maybe with a strap, lean back when you feel ready and adjust the props that are catching your torso from behind. Feeling that uplift in your chest, allowing your shoulders to descend, keeping a lot of space throughout your neck, including your throat. The arms could be reaching overhead, holding opposite elbows, which further opens the side waists. or more restful, you can turn the palms face up, landing your forearms on the ground just slightly outside of your thighs. And then take a moment to scan your body. Any last little adjustments you might need so that you can really be here for 3 minutes comfortably. And as you're lying in this position, you might choose to enter dirga pranayama again. 1/3 of the inhale into the lowest part of your torso, 1/3 into the mid-torso, 1/3 into the uppermost torso, holding the breath for a few seconds. And then slowly exhaling, perhaps through the mouth, to further calm and cool down. Holding the breath out. A few cycles of that. And notice the effects of these practices. Specifically what you're doing right now, physically in your postures, in the way that you're directing your breath. Because although there's so many wisdom teachings in yoga, as Patanjali mentions in the Sutras, the most important aspect of it is the hands-on learning. And really learning from your direct experiences, your own observations, what's true for you. Now, here are a few things to consider as we transition into corpse pose, into Shavasana. You could stay exactly where you are. You're feeling absolutely restful here. Or you can ease into lifting your legs on a prop, maybe using your pillow or a stack of pillows so that you're elevating your legs. Or lie flat. So find your way very gently into your corpse pose. Now, if you'd like to sit for our last 5 minutes in meditation, you may like to keep your eyes closed as you just start to move small parts of your body first. Really gentle, like rubbing the thumbs across your fingertips and wiggling your toes, maybe gently turning your head. And from one gentle movement to another, find your own way up into Sukhasana, or easy pose. Supporting your body in any way with any props you might need. Just sitting here for 5 minutes. Feel a posture of a strong back and open heart. Rest your hands in any mudra that allows you to steady your awareness. Maybe back thumbs touching on your lap. Or Jnana Mudra, thumb and index fingers touching. You might close your eyes or keep them softly open with a gentle, steady gaze on one spot. Resting your attention on one focus point that you choose, whether it be a sound, it's pretty consistent, sensation of your breath moving in and out naturally. And neutrally observing whatever arises in this space. And if your eyes are still closed, still keeping them closed, I invite you to bring your thumb tips to touch, your pinky fingertips to touch, with your palms facing up, so that the heels of your palms connect into this shape of a lotus flower, and just setting your thumbs to rest on your sternum, right at the middle of your chest, the symbol of purity, of tuning into your heart center. And as we close this meditation, I invite you to ask your own heart what it may need right now. Feeling into what might inspire you after this practice today. And with that, let's close with one chant of Om. Take a deep inhale. Thank you for sharing your practice. The light in me, thou is to the light in you. Namaste.